For smaller acts that are trying to develop a following, I think you've really got to have a multiple tiered approach to developing a following. You've got to not only be able to present your music online, you've got to be able to play live, but really one of the most important things is developing relationships with other bands and artists within your local community as well as neighboring communities. Oftentimes, you can utilize one another's efforts to benefit the greater good of both of you. An artist is ready to be signed when they have the material, experience, and mentality to dedicate themselves full time to making their art and business align. How often an artist should tour really depends on the level of the artist. If you're a developing act, you really want to try to tour as often as possible, but keep in mind that if you play the same market every other weekend, you're going to increase your supply and therefore decrease your demand. So it's really about finding that delicate balance between how frequently you can go to a particular market and still have people come see you. As you're developing a following, hopefully you put on a good enough show where someone in the crowd really enjoys it, tells their friends, who tells their friends, and they drag them along to see you the next time that you come through. For developed artists, we often have to implement a worldwide strategy to keep them on the road, as it's a primary way to make money without oversaturating their demand in any particular market. So for most of the artists that are already developed, we end up touring them in the United States, and oftentimes 3 times through any particular city, especially if it's a major market in any one year, is about the max that the market can tolerate. So it really depends on where you are, but touring is such an integral part of what you do. It really has to be a very well managed part of a band's operation. Unfortunately, not any deal is a good deal, and there are plenty of trade-offs that can and should be considered. Oftentimes, as a developing artist is looking to get signed, they want that validation and want to be able to get their music out to a broader audience at any cost. Unfortunately, throughout the years, there have been some real predators who present bands with bad deals, and as the band grows, it ends up coming back to haunt them because they've given away too many rights, or the rights that they've given away they're not being compensated adequately for. That said, a band really needs to work with their team to understand what their particular value is at the given time that a deal is presented. It's probably safe to say that you're not going to get every single thing that you want in your first recording contract, publishing contract, or any deal that you're doing. When doing a deal, you really have to be cognizant of what you're willing to give up in order to gain exposure at any time versus what you'll be devastated that you have given up if you explode over the course of your career. Getting noticed as an artist actually has become harder and harder while simultaneously becoming easier and easier. The reason it's easier is the channels of reaching people have become so much more flat. You can get your material into people's hands via the internet in a much easier capacity than you could have 5 or 10 years ago. That said, there's so much material out there that it can sometimes actually be harder to break through the noise that kind of exists from so many artists getting their material out there. So the ways to get noticed are to have great material, great music, great art, along with really great content. It's not just the music itself, although that has to be the key focal point and the foundation for it, but so many interesting ways of creating content to go along with that, whether it be something that's visual, whether it be video, any number of things that you can do, and then really utilizing all of the technologies that exist on the internet to exploit and get that message out there. The brand of a band is of the utmost importance. In growing from the music, you have to have a brand recognition that's in place so everything associated with the artist reflects back onto that brand itself. It's about constantly reinforcing it through visuals, through logos, through everything that you do, so people reflect back onto the brand and ultimately the music. Artists should view this as a business because it's really the foundations of the business that allow you to continue to have fun with the art. If all of the fundamental components of the business are in place, it actually frees the artist up to continue to have fun with their music. As an artist develops, eventually they need to transition from a more is more mentality to a less is more mentality. In the beginning, the more is more part is any exposure is really good exposure, and eventually the less is more is because only the right exposure is good exposure. As an artist is trying to get noticed, they need to take any and all efforts and work at any cost to get their music and their brand out there. That said, at some point, they've got to align themselves strategically with other artists of the same, that have the same interest that they do, that have the same vision that they do, that are on the same level as they are, if they want people to perceive them as artists of a certain stature. Making it as an artist is a really hard thing to quantify. Of all of the artists that we work with, there's probably only a handful where every single member in the band actually makes a living from the band itself. Oftentimes, artists have to supplement their incomes with other jobs and opportunities that present themselves. That said, finding the right team to give yourself the best chance of success is of the utmost importance in attempting to make it. What is success is actually a very important question that we ask any of the artists that we work with. Success can mean so many different things to each artist, and the indicators of success can be very different depending on where an artist is. Success surely doesn't always have to be financial success. Sometimes just getting the art into the hands of the people is a success in and of itself. Releasing it through a label, going on a certain tour, achieving a certain deal. And as a band grows, it's important to consistently find different indicators to allow you to know whether or not you're achieving success.